So let's be frank and talk franking credits on dividends, because tax is such a sexy topic. So we're lucky in Australia, we have a lot of stable, high-yield dividend stocks, and quite a lot of them have tax benefits in the form of franking credits. So if you've received dividends, you've probably noticed that they can either be fully franked, partially franked, or unfranked, which is no tax benefits associated with them. But what does that all mean? So the franking refers to the tax credit that has already been paid on that dividend. Think of it like a small-scale tax offset. So companies in Australia are taxed at a company rate of 30%. And when they give out their dividends, assuming that that company pays dividends, they can choose to pass on that dividend before they pay tax, so it would be unfranked because no tax has been paid on it yet, or they can choose to pay the tax first and then pass it on to shareholders. And if that's the case, the shareholder will get a payment and a tax credit. So let's say you've got a dividend payment of $100. Pretty sweet dividend, but we'll go with it because the math will be easier. So if no tax has been paid on that dividend, it's an unfranked dividend, you'll get that full $100 payment. But if it's, say, fully franked and the 30% has been paid, the value of that dividend is still $100, but you'll get a $70 payment and $30 in tax credits. And that's the same with partially franked dividends, except it won't be a full 30%, it'll be whatever percentage that they've told you it's going to be. So because you get that tax credit, depending on what your personal tax rate is going to be when you put your tax in, you may either get a refund or just have to pay the small amount above the 30%. So this is all part of an imputation system to prevent double taxing. Because what they don't want to happen is that the company pays the tax and then you receive the dividend as income and pay tax on it again, so there's a double taxation. It's not fair to tax the same income twice. So to prevent that from happening, if the company has paid tax on it already and then passes it on to shareholders, the shareholders will get credit for the amount of tax that's already been paid on it. And when they put their personal tax return in, they won't have to pay that portion of the tax because it's already been paid. If, however, the dividend is unfranked, no tax has been paid, then you will have to pay tax on that dividend. So let's say it's tax time. Not everyone's favorite time of year, but this is what happens. So let's say you own shares in a fully franked dividend company and you want to know how that's going to offset or help you tax time. Now, obviously this comes down to your personal tax rate because everyone is going to be different here. So currently in Australia, we have a tier system of different tax rates based on your annual income. When I'm showing examples, I'm going to oversimplify to make it easier to understand, like saying someone in the 18 to 37,000 tax bracket is at a 19% marginal rate, even though that 19% is only for income above the 18,200. So, but if you want to know the exact tax credit you'll receive, you have to leave it up to the tax office or your accountant to work out. But I'm just going to show you here just to simplify so you get an idea of what sort of refund or tax you might have to pay. So let's say that your personal tax rate is 0%. You're under the income threshold and you aren't required to pay tax. But since you've received some fully franked dividends and the tax credit has already been paid, you will get that back in full as a refund. If you're on, say, the 19% tax rate, then you'll receive a partial refund. And if you're over 30%, say you're on the 32% bracket, because the 30% has already been paid, you only have to pay the 2% extra on that dividend. And it goes without saying, this is only on your dividend income, not on the rest of your income. Okay, so let's talk about how you get the franking credits because there are some rules attached to it. The most obvious is the 45-day holding rule. So in Australia, to get that franking credit, to get the tax benefit, you need to hold the share for at least 45 days. Actually, it's more like 47 days because they don't count the day that you buy and sell. So they call it the 45-day rule, but it's actually closer to 47 days. That was implemented to stop a dividend stripping strategy where people would buy before the ex-dividend date just to get the dividend, and once they are eligible for the dividend, they will sell straight away. So now to get the franking credit, the tax benefit, you have to hold at least 45 days. So does that mean that fully franked dividends are better than partial dividends, and are they better than unfranked dividends where you don't get any tax credit? Now this is a good question because there are so many variables and it depends. Now, there are some benefits to getting fully franked dividends because you're getting income based on tax that's already been paid, so you actually get an extra benefit, so you're not getting taxed on the full amount. But clearly this only works if you're a long-term investor or a dividend investor. Now, I prefer to go for fully franked dividends if I was choosing between two companies that, say, were pretty much equal except one had fully franked dividends and one was unfranked. I'd probably go with the fully franked dividend pretty much all of the time. But there are times where you might want to go for an unfranked dividend, especially if the yield is great and you're not so concerned about the tax benefits. Same if you're a short-term investor or a trader that you're not interested in holding for the 45 days just to get that tax benefit, then it doesn't really matter what shares you're buying. You're more interested in the price and not the tax benefit that you're going to get from the dividend anyway. So in that case, it doesn't really make much sense. It doesn't really matter. So I hope this little video briefly has explained what franked and unfranked dividends are, because I get asked that question a few times, and how tax works on dividends. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you're staying safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.